Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And in this video we're going to adjust the camber and the toe. And before we do so, the first thing you need to know is what are the adjustments you want to have on your race car. And I'm not going to explain what toe in, toe out, positive and negative camber is. For that I have a lot of videos on my channel. Now in my specific case, I'm going to align the toe in the front to 3 millimeters. That's 1.5 millimeter on one side, and we're going to do it in the back for the same distance, also 3 millimeters. We're also going to check and adjust the camber in the front, which is 2 degrees, and the camber in the back, which is 1 degree. Again, on your car that might be different. Place the car on an absolute flat horizontal floor. Make sure that you have the right tire pressure on all 4 of your tires. You don't need a lot of fancy tools to adjust the toe. You will need 2 bars of equal length and make divisions on the bars at equal distances. The metal bars that I'm using are aluminum, and I have marked them in exactly the same locations, and make sure that this is absolutely accurate. You're also going to need a string. In fact, you will need 2 strings. Go for a very thin string, like this one. And we're going to span this on both sides of the car. You're going to need something simple. A ruler, which is down to 1/10 of a millimeter. You're going to need some supports, and here I'm having some jacks. And I'm going to put some rubber on top of the jacks. And then I'm going to put the bars through it. But you could use anything else, any other stand or a piece of wood or a cardboard box or whatever that you can place on the 4 corners of the car. This is all what you're going to need. So this is nothing special. You can go fancy to adjust the camber, and this is a camber adjustment tool. It's a fairly large one, very accurate, and you can check out positive and negative camber. You can also go for a cheaper version, and this runs you very cheap. All you need to do is stick it with the magnet onto your wheels, and then you can read the amount of degrees. But if you don't have these tools, a very simple square angle like this one will do the job for you. And I'll show you on how we're going to use this. So we're going to adjust the toe, and I'm going to start with placing 4 jacks at each corner of the car. And I want to make sure that the jacks, where the bar will go through, will actually be right in the middle of the wheel hub. So I'm just going to adjust this a bit. Now you can do this with whatever you guys have. I'm doing this with a jack because I've been doing this on many cars, so for me that's handy. But you don't need to do this. You can also use a card box or something. So that's one. I'm also going to do the others, and then we place them on the 4 corners. So we're going to place the jacks in the front of the car. And already have placed the other one more or less in the same spot. Now we'll feed a bar through the opening. And now position the jacks in the front on an equal distance from the front wheels. So I'm going to place mine at 90, and this is not very crucial. And here's our bar in the back of the car. Now we need to attach the strings. So now we're going to hook up the string, and we're going to use the first marking in this case, because the car has a certain width. So I want to make sure that it's wide enough. I'm going to use the same marking in the back and on the front on the bar, because these markings are the same on both bars. So you need to use the same marking on each side of the car. And make sure that the string is passing through the center of the wheel hub. So in my case, the center is 25, and you can see it's still not there. So now you can see why I have these little jacks on the side. So now I can jack this up a little bit until I have the right height. I know on the camera it shows off a little bit, but that's just because the camera is a little bit higher up. And that's good. This is right in the middle. So now we do the other side. With the bars installed in the front and in the back, and the strings in place on the right height cutting through the center of the wheel hubs, now it's time to shuffle those bars left and right so that the distance from the center of the front wheel on the right is the same distance as from the center of the front wheel on the left towards the string. And for that, we'll have to move around that bar a little bit. So I'm going to have a quick check what we have right now, and then we'll do the other side. 87. And on this side, we have 150. So we need to slide the bar back about 3.7 centimeters. So I'm going to slide the front bar back about 3.5 centimeters. And then we check again. I'm still working on the front wheels, and we need to go about a little bit more. So let's go another centimeter. And we're going to measure also on the rear wheels. Now remember that the rear wheels may be wider than the front wheels. So the front and the back doesn't have to be the same, but on the same axle, they have to be the same. So the front has to be the same, left and right, and the back has to be the same, left and right. So let's see what we got here, 160. I'm going to check the other side, and I'm going to keep sliding those bars back and front until we have that properly set up. I adjusted the bars so that I have exactly 119 millimeters from the center of the wheel hub to the string, and on the other side I have exactly the same. In the back I have 150 from the center of the wheel hub to the string, both left and right. And those figures don't have to be exactly the same. So the front can differ from the back. It doesn't really matter because it all depends on how your car is built. Some cars are smaller in the front and wider in the back. So that is irrelevant. But they have to be the same distance from the center of the wheel hub to the string. Now, of course, if you have a bar which is much wider, then of course that distance will be more or less. It all depends where you place that string. And that means that the car is in the center now. So now we can start measuring the distance from the front of the rim to the back of the rim. And remember, we are adjusting for toe in, so the wheels are going to point inwards. But of course, I don't know if the front wheels are straight, so I'm going to measure first on one side, and I measure here 120. I'm going to measure the other side now, and then reposition the steering wheel so it's the same on both sides. We got 125, and we have 125 on the other side. It was just a matter of getting the steering wheel a bit more straight. Not that that matters really that much. So how are we now going to set the toe? Well, you just measure the distance from the rim to the string, measure in the front of the rim to the string, and the difference in millimeters will tell you how much toe in we have. So the front figure should be larger than the back if you talk toe in. If you talk toe out, it's just the opposite. If you go for toe out, then the back distance will be more. So let's see what we've got. And I'm using a light so I don't get any false shadows. This is 124. And in the front, I've got 118. Now that is a lot of toe out, and I don't want to have toe out, so I will need to adjust this. So in the front, I can adjust my toe, and I know that I have too much toe out, which I don't really like. It may be great for cornering, but certainly not for straight driving. So I'm going to adjust it to what I want to have. Remember, 1.5 millimeter on either side. So that means I have to extend this rod. So let's see if we can do this. No, wrong direction. And you can already see the wheel turning. But you got to be careful that you don't push it too far out, because otherwise these bolts can get loose, and this is not what you want to have. So let's measure again. Obviously your rims have to be straight. If you have bent rims, it's not going to work. 120, and I have here 124. So that's 4 millimeters. That's way too much. So I need to bring it back to about 122. I think this is about it. How much do we have here? 120. 122, a little bit more. 121.5. So that's the setting I want to have. And I'll just need to look up the bolts. And in the back, we're going to do exactly the same thing. And this is a 111. And here it's 111. So we have no toe in, it's almost straight. I'm going to give it a little bit. So I'm going to use my wrenches and adjust it in the back. So in the back, I need to extend it a little bit. Yep. And check. Toe in. So we adjusted the toe on the car, and as you have seen, it's pretty easy. I'm using toe in, 1.5 millimeter on each wheel, both in the front and in the back. I'll leave that up to you, what you prefer on your car. It all depends what you want to do with your car, how you want to race. I know some people use toe out in the front because it's better for cornering. But again, this video is not about what is better. It is just to show you the method on how you can adjust the toe. The next thing up is to look at the camber. The easiest way to check your camber and adjust it is by using a squared angle. And then measure the distance from the bottom of the rim and on the top of the rim. And based on those two values, you can really calculate how many degrees you have. I'm looking on this car for about 2 degrees in the front and 1 degree in the back, and I'm talking about negative camber, meaning the wheels are slightly in an angle like so. So that's one way of doing it. The next method is using a builder's laser, nothing really special, and a piece of metal if you need be, and you hold it against the rim, you turn it on, and then you should be able to see how many degrees you have. So I have 88.3 degrees, so that means I have right now about 2 degrees of negative camber, which is okay. So that's an easy way, and these rulers or these lasers are not that expensive. And the other way is using a fancy camber meter. You just stick it onto your disc after you have it calibrated, and then you can see how many degrees you have. There's a negative scale, there's a positive scale, and I see right here that I'm at about 1 2/25. So that is good. If not, I would have to adjust it right here on the bottom. And of course, you can also use the more economical version. So again, I place it on there. And as you can see, we have about 1.2 degrees of negative camber. So both are pretty much okay. These are very handy, especially the small ones, because you can't always fit the big one onto your discs. So folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. And as you can see, aligning your car is very simple. If you want to see all the details on how to do this, then have a look on one of my playlists. I have a complete playlist on geometry on cars, the riding height, the roll centers and all that. Because here we only adjusted 2 parameters, but the 2 most important parameters. So, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.